All right, let's jump right in. The word sales, what does it make you think of? For a lot of people, it's not great. But what if we've got it all backward? Today, we're going to flip that script. We're going to look at sales not as some sleazy job, but as a genuine superpower. And we'll do it by following the incredible 20-year journey of one particular executive.
So first, let's just get it out there. There's a real stigma, right? When you hear the word salesperson, what's the first image that pops into your head? For so many of us, it's all about pressure, slick talk, and that uncomfortable feeling of being pushed into something. And that stereotype, that negative vibe, is so strong that it actually stops people from learning what might be one of the most important skills you could ever have.
And this quote right here, it just nails that misconception perfectly. This idea that selling means you have to be dishonest or even desperate. You know, the belief that you have to just talk and talk and talk, bend the truth, and basically corner someone into saying yes. This way of thinking isn't just wrong about sales. It holds us back in our own lives big time.
But you know how it is? The biggest lessons in life, they don't usually come when things are easy. They come when you hit rock bottom. And that was definitely the case for this one high-flying executive who threw a fantastic career away to start all over again. It was an experience that literally took him from feeling like a dragon to feeling worse than a dog.
So let's picture this journey. Before he even hit 30, this guy was a top finance graduate. He was already the spokesperson for a public company. I mean, he was on top of the world. But then he reads a book that just completely changes his perspective. And he makes this insane choice. He quits his job to become an entry-level IT sales rep, a field he knew absolutely nothing about.
Wow. The shock was immediate, and it was brutal. He went from feeling totally invincible, like a dragon in the sky, to feeling completely and utterly lost. He'd sit in meetings with clients, just scribbling down acronyms and product names he'd never heard of so he could Google them later. His confidence, completely gone, shattered.
So, how did it go? Well, for 6 straight months, absolutely nothing. Not a single deal closed. Zero. You can just imagine, right? After all those meetings, all that cramming at night, he was really starting to wonder if he'd made the biggest mistake of his life. I mean, should he have just stayed put in that cushy finance job? This was his rock bottom. But it was right there, in that pit of failure, that the real breakthrough happened. He started to see what really separates the true masters from everyone else. And it wasn't about being slick or aggressive. It was about a set of 3 core qualities, a mindset that, honestly, applies to just about everything in life, not just sales.
So what did he land on? This powerful trio: resilience, altruism, and integrity. Now, these aren't just some fluffy buzzwords he read somewhere. These were lessons he learned the hard way, through total failure. Let's dig into what each of these really looks like when you put them into practice.
Okay, first up, resilience. He makes this brilliant comparison to baseball. A hitter who gets a hit just 30% of the time, that person is an all-star, a legend. Sales is exactly the same. Now that is a huge mental adjustment, especially for people who are used to acing tests with 90s or 100s. You have to develop the mental armor to understand that rejection is part of the game. Failure isn't the exception, it's the rule.
Then you've got altruism and integrity, and they really are 2 sides of the same coin. Altruism is about flipping a switch in your brain. You stop thinking, what's in it for me, and you start thinking, how can I genuinely help this person solve their problem? And integrity, that's about just being a good, trustworthy person. He points out that in any industry, word gets around fast. If you get a reputation for being shady, you're done. Trust is the only thing that builds a real long-term career.
Okay, so you have the mindset, but how do you actually use it? Well, he came up with 2 incredibly simple but powerful frameworks that can guide you in pretty much any situation. The first one is this mental checklist he calls the 2 goods, 3 whys. Think of it as a quick gut check you can run through before or even during any kind of negotiation. It just helps make sure that you're aiming for a result that's good for everyone, one that's actually going to last. And here's why this little framework is so brilliant. It gives you a roadmap for the whole conversation. The 2 goods part is super simple. Is this actually good for my client, and is it good for my company? If the answer isn't yes to both, you just don't do it. It's not a healthy deal. Then you've got the 3 whys, which you absolutely have to be able to answer. Why buy this thing in the first place? Why buy it from me and not someone else? And, why now? If you don't have solid answers for those 3 questions, you're just not ready to close. His second framework? It's even more basic, but maybe even more profound. He realized that when you strip everything else away, every single transaction, whether you're buying a cup of coffee or inking a massive corporate deal, it all comes down to just three key ingredients.
This is just such a clear way to see it. Every decision is about price, product, or relationship. I mean, think about it. You might grab something because it's on a killer sale. That's price. You might splurge on a new phone because it's simply the best one out there. That's product. Or you might just go with the local guy for your insurance because you've known him for years and you trust him. That's relationship. Any one of those can be enough to make a deal happen. But if you've got all three working for you, man, you are just unstoppable.
All right, so why should any of this matter if you don't have sales in your job title? Well, this is where it all comes together. This is the big reveal. Once you really get this mindset and you start using these frameworks, you realize sales isn't a job at all. It's a universal superpower for getting through life.
The big shift we all need to make is right here. We have to toss out that old, grimy view of sales and embrace this new, empowering one. It's not about forcing a transaction. It's about building a relationship. It's not pushy, it's helpful. It's not selfish, it's built on empathy. And here's the most important part. It's not a special job for a handful of people. It is a core skill for every single one of us.
And I mean it, you really are. When you're trying to get your team on board with a new idea, you're selling. When you're on a first date, you're selling. When you're in a job interview asking your boss for a raise, or even just trying to convince your friends which movie to see, you are constantly selling your ideas, your value, yourself, every single day. And get this skill is only becoming more important. As AI gets better and better at handling repetitive tasks and even complex analytical ones, what's left for us humans? It's the human stuff, the ability to build trust, to feel and show empathy, to really understand what another person needs and help them see a solution. In other words, the core skills of real modern sales are exactly the skills that AI can't touch. They're future-proof.
So I guess I'll just leave you with this question. If sales is really all about resilience, helping others, and building trust to create wins for everybody, what are you selling today? And how can you start using that superpower to build better relationships and create more value in every single part of your life?